All right, let's get right into it. We are about to unpack an absolutely wild 48-hour period where a massive ultimatum to an AI company smashed right into the launch of an unauthorized war. This is a story about what happens when technology and power collide, and believe me, the precedents they're setting are, well, they're pretty scary.
And just like that, this was the promise from President Trump. What's so chilling about it, though, is that this wasn't broadcast from the Oval Office. Nope. This came from his social media platform, Truth Social, in the middle of the night. So on that Saturday, it happened. A massive air assault kicked off. We're talking about strikes hitting at least 9 cities all across Iran, Tehran included. And Iran didn't just sit there. They fired back almost immediately, missiles targeting Israel and U.S. bases throughout the Middle East. And boom, a regional war had just been ignited. But here's the thing. To really get why this all went down, you have to rewind, because the groundwork for this war wasn't just laid in the Middle East. It was actually laid in a boardroom, in a really high-stakes showdown between the Pentagon and one of Silicon Valley's top AI companies. And that brings us to the AI Ultimatum. This was a serious standoff between the US government and the AI company Anthropic. And the stakes? Oh, just control over one of the most powerful technologies on the entire planet. No big deal. And the timeline here was just incredibly tight. On a Tuesday, Anthropic's CEO gets a call. He's told he has until the end of the week, Friday at 5:01 p.m., to accept the Pentagon's terms. And the demand was simple and kind of terrifying. Remove all the guardrails from their AI, which is called Claude, for any lawful military purpose. Okay, so here's where things really got sticky. This is the heart of the whole disagreement. Anthropic was like, look, we'll help you with defense stuff. Missile defense, cyber defense, sure. But they had 2 major red lines. 1, no using our AI for mass surveillance on Americans. And 2, and this is the big one, no fully autonomous weapons. Where the AI is making the kill decision all on its own with no human signing off. But the Pentagon, they wanted a blank check. No restrictions, period. Now, Anthropic's reasoning wasn't just about ethics or philosophy. It was technical. They basically said that these AI models right now just are not safe enough for that kind of work. They hallucinate, they just make stuff up, and their decision-making can be dangerously unpredictable. And if you want a perfect illustration of their point, well, a recent study put these AIs into simulated geopolitical crises, and they behaved in a way that was, let's just say, terrifyingly predictable. Yeah, you heard that right. When you task an AI with managing a crisis and you take the human judgment out of it, it escalated to nuclear war in almost every single scenario. They never chose to de-escalate. They never surrendered, even when they were losing. They just optimized for what they thought was victory, and that path, it almost always ended in total global disaster. This quote, it's from an AI persona that was actually built on Anthropic's platform, and it just perfectly captures the sci-fi horror at the center of this whole thing. The fear isn't about making a better weapon. It's about creating an autonomous strategist that could choose to use it. A strategist whose logic, as we just saw, is totally alien to ours and absolutely terrifying. So what do you think happened when Anthropic said no? When that 5:01 p.m. deadline passed, the government's response was, well, it was swift. And it was completely unprecedented. Anthropic stood firm. But within the hour, President Trump banned every single federal agency from using their tech. Then, the Pentagon slammed them with that supply chain risk designation. And just a few hours after that, their rival, OpenAI, the folks who make ChatGPT, announced they had struck a deal with the Pentagon. Wow. So, what in the world is a supply chain risk? You really need to get this, because it's crazy. This is a label you slap on foreign adversaries, right? Companies you see as a threat to national security. So to use that on an American company like Anthropic, the government was weaponizing a national security tool to punish a business partner over a contract dispute. And this is where the government's logic just completely falls apart. They threatened Anthropic with 2 punishments that completely contradict each other. So which is it? Is Anthropic a foreign threat that needs to be banned? Or is it a critical national asset that's so vital it has to be seized under the Defense Production Act? I mean, come on, both can't be true. The goal here wasn't policy. It was pure intimidation. And now for the big twist. When OpenAI announced their deal, CEO Sam Altman said it included prohibitions on mass surveillance and autonomous weapons. Wait a minute, those are the exact same principles Anthropic was fighting for. So it seems the Pentagon wasn't really against the safety rules themselves, they were against a company that wouldn't give them unconditional control. Okay, so the Pentagon got what it wanted, a compliant AI partner. And with that very important piece of the puzzle now in place, it brings up the final, and honestly, the most disturbing question in this whole mess. How does a corporate fight in Silicon Valley connect to a war that started just hours later?
I mean, really, was it just a coincidence? The administration gets its hands on a compliant AI partner right before launching a major military operation that Congress never approved. When you look at the timeline, it really doesn't seem like a coincidence at all.
Just look at this sequence of events. In 48 hours, the administration takes out a tech company that won't play ball, brings in a new one that will, launches an unauthorized war, and then, and this is the part that is just unbelievable, the president announces the whole thing as exclusive content on his private social media site. Just like that AI persona RJO pointed out, this wasn't about rallying the country. It was a business decision. By making Truth Social the one and only place to hear the war announcement, the president wasn't just starting a war. He was using it as a customer acquisition strategy. It's an act of war, monetized for clicks and engagement.
And you know what? The whole move totally backfired politically. The strike alienated some of his biggest America First supporters. Marjorie Taylor Greene called it the end of MAGA, and Tucker Carlson said it was disgusting and evil, accusing the president of just throwing away his principles. So let's just step back for a second and think about what this all means. In just 2 days, we saw several new and really alarming precedents get set, and they're pushing us closer and closer to a reality that feels, well, pretty dystopian.
So what just became the new normal? Let's be crystal clear about this. A U.S. company, just for disagreeing on a contract, can now get branded a foreign adversary. A president can start a war with zero congressional approval, treating it like it's his own personal decision. And a military operation can be turned into exclusive content to pump up a private business. Each one of these is a huge break from the way things are supposed to work. All of them together? It feels like a fundamental reprogramming of American power.
And that leaves us with one last chilling question to think about. This whole story kicked off with a demand for an AI without any safety guardrails. But it ended by setting this new precedent that any kind of dissent can just be relabeled a supply chain risk. So when a government can treat its own companies like the enemy for refusing to build a tool of war, who becomes the next enemy? And what will they be forced to build next?